This is Paul Shortino here. I hear you got yourself a YouTube show called Grab a Stack of Rock. Oh yeah, oh no, I feel I'm dreaming again. Oh no, I'm dreaming. Oh no, I feel I'm dreaming again. Oh no, I'm dreaming. Oh yeah, I'm dreaming of watching you. That's right, Mike. And your new show on YouTube called Grab a Stack of Rock. Peace, love.
Friday night, we're rocking the races. Come and see familiar faces. Uncle Meat, Rob Daniels, Jon Snow. Gibby's here, it's the place to go. Grab a stack of rock with Mike and the Metal Man. Grab a stack of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Keyboard's here, it's time for a party. Come and see, got the comments started. Grab a stack of rock with Mike and the Metal Man. Grab a stack of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Grab a stack of rock with Mike and the Metal Man. Grab a stack of rock and hold on tight as hard as you can. Grab a stack of rock. Grab a stack of rock.
Good evening or good morning, and welcome to Grab a Stack of Rock. Thank you for joining me, Peter from Rock Daydream Nation.
It's good to be back. Welcome.
Glad to have you back. How's the morning treating you? How's the weekend?
It's a beautiful day in Sydney, not a cloud in the sky. It's starting to warm up. All is well in the world.
Most excellent. So, just to get people up to speed, 'twas Mr. Kerr himself who suggested this specific topic tonight, which is our top 10 tracks from the year 1984. Now, since that time, we've kind of refined it a little bit. We've decided we're not going to rank our songs. We're just going to rhyme them off, because really, at the end of the day, does it really matter? Number 5, number 6? Not really. They could.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about a lot of rock tracks like hard rock and heavy metal. We'll throw a couple of pop songs here and there in our conversation. But, man, so many great songs in 1984. This is going to be one tough list to put together.
Yes, I could have done 3. I could have done 30 songs easily.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ash, for calling us legends. That's in South Australia, it's cold and rainy. That stinks. Warm and rainy here in southern Canada, which is kind of But let's set the stage a moment. 1984, 40 years ago, the Soviet Union boycotted the Olympics. Indira Gandhi was assassinated, and Ronald Reagan was elected to his second term in a landslide. Man, Peter, it seems like yesterday sometimes.
Absolutely. Where did all the time go? But, yeah, a lot of things happening in 1984. And, I guess if it was a weekend, I'd be going to the Time Zone arcade video game, putting my money on Pac-Man or Galaga or something, and listening, to some Metal on the Ghetto Blaster. What about you?
Same thing. I was obsessed with video games. We had an Atari 2600 in the basement. And, Ghetto Blaster. That was the way to go. I had a Sanyo that I was extremely proud of. It took, I think, 6 C or D cell batteries.
Absolutely. Oh, they were the days.
They were.
Movies only cost, I think it was only $9 for a ticket, and now it's like $40 to go to see a movie. It's ridiculous.
We used to have $2 Tuesdays back then, and you know, I will be talking a little bit about movies and TV and
Yes.
comic books and video games. We're gonna sprinkle some of that through the show, but our main focus today is going to be songs, and our main song focus is going to be rock and metal.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's celebrate 1984. What a year.
Let's celebrate 1984 with a guest list to start us off, which would be Sir Uncle Meat. There's the comment right there. Sir Uncle Meat, who is watching right now. And he always does 11 because in tribute to Spinal Tap, his lists always go up to 11. And he did order his. I'll read them in order, but the rest of us did not do this. Number 11, Couldn't Stand the Weather, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Number 10, The Oath, Merciful Fate, going heavy. Going more into pop rock, we have It's Only Love, the massive duet between Bryan Adams and Tina Turner. And this is one that I had considered for my list, the classic Don't Stop Running by Y&T, the first Y&T song I ever heard. Middle of the Road by the Pretenders, and a band that we may hear more of tonight, Whitesnake. And he chose Slow and Easy, which, you know, there's a few songs you could go with, but he chose Slow and Easy. Now, here's one I looked at earlier today, and I could have sworn it was 1983, but we'll allow it. We Rock by Dio. Then he has the excellent Enemy Within by Rush. Incubus by Marillion. Some of Fish's greatest lyrical work on that song. Take Hold of the Flame by Queensryche. And at his number 1, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Iron Maiden. That's a great list. And I can all but guarantee we'll see some of those albums in my collection tonight.
Absolutely. Can't wait. All
right.
killer, no filler.
Now, we have a list from Harrison too, but I think with Harrison's, I'm going to kind of read his in turn with ours, because he would have liked to have been on this show tonight. And unfortunately, he's got a cold, is the story. So he would have been here tonight if not for his wretched cold. But let's start with you, Peter. Give me a song from 1984.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit poppy metal. And this band was regarded as a bit of a one-hit wonder. It was played on the radio, I think, prevalently in America, had a little bit of an impact in Australia. And I'm talking about the band Autograph with Turn Up the Radio. Man, that is a catchy song. You can't deny a good song is a good song. And it was really funny. I went to the Rainbow Bar and Grill with my wife about 7-8 years ago. And there it was. As soon as I got into the Rainbow Bar and Grill, it was on the jukebox and people were dancing and cavorting around. And yeah, it still gets played to this day. So it's off the Sign In Please album. Very underrated, very catchy songs. Steve Plunkett, it's his band. There's been many incarnations of Autograph since. But look, except No Substitute, the original band was the best. And look, they should have been a lot bigger. They were touring in 1984 with Van Halen, but Van Halen pushed them off the support slot. And they weren't on a very good record label, Mike. They're on RCA, which I don't think knew how to market metal or hard rock for that matter.
Yeah.
But, look, really good songs, really catchy songs, and they should have been much bigger. But that's my song, Turn Up the Radio. Really catchy.
So as a young fella that was into science fiction and robots and was also into sort of comedic stuff that was going on in metal, when that music video came out, I was just obsessed with it because it had a robot in it and it had this kind of goofy drummer, Kenny Richards, the late great Kenny Richards. And he was kind of goofy, you know, he was playing it for laughs in the music video, pulling faces and whatnot. And I fell in love with that song and that band. And it found a whole new audience later on. I think it was in one of the Grand Theft Auto video games. I don't know for sure. But my buddy Chris, who's a little bit younger than me, discovered that song much later on thanks to video games. So, yeah, great first pick. And wonderful that you are covering songs that I neglected.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, that song still gets played in the Kerr household. I love playing the album, and it's just so hooky. And that's what makes a great song. It's got to have a hook. And man, that's got hooks galore.
Well, you mentioned two things in your spiel. You mentioned Van Halen and you mentioned hooks galore. And I'm not picking one of the main three singles. I'm picking the other one. I'm picking I'll Wait. Because who doesn't love that big fat synth sound that he's got going in this song? One of Eddie's tastiest guitar solos, some of Dave's best lyrics, great keyboard solo. I think a lot of people, when they bought 1984, the album, they listened to the hits, and then there's this kind of dark horse, this deep cut that comes out on the second side of the album with that big fat synth, and it kind of makes you wonder, why wasn't this on MTV? And they never made a music video for I'll Wait. But yeah, I think this is one of the best tunes on 1984. It's hard to compete with songs like Hot for Teacher and Jump, but I don't know what Michael McDonald did, but he got a writing credit on this song. That's the story. I only have the sleeve, unfortunately. This was retrieved by a buddy of mine named Craig from a record store in Pittsburgh. He'd bought a bunch of Van Halen singles on my behalf, and they threw in this empty sleeve for free because the record had gone missing. And hey, I appreciate it. Maybe one day I'll find a record to put in here.
Yeah, look, I love 1984. I think it's top 3 Van Halen, and it's a little bit contrarian. I still think a lot of people put shade on that album.
They do.
They say, "Oh, it's not as good as the first couple." But no, seriously, 1984 is a really top-notch album.
Rob Daniels has a great point in here. The Terminator was 1984. That is some heavy metal. Henry, yes, do check out Autograph. They did 3 albums initially. There was Blondes in Black Cars was another single from the second album. Yeah, check them out. They did some MTV play. Thank you, Henry, for liking my pick. And thank you, Ash. And House of Pain. Yes, that was on their original Zero demo. A lot of us did, Ash. A lot of us did. And Johnny Metal's first pick is The Tempter by Trouble, which I don't know. But Johnny Metal always goes a little bit into the obscure.
That's why we love Johnny Metal.
That's why we love Johnny Metal.
He pulls it out of the bag.
He does. But what do you have in your bag for your second song?
Look, this is in, as I've said, in no shape or form in any order. So I'll continue with the sort of poppy metal. Round and Round, Ratt. A great song is a great song. Another song that gets played on American Classic Hits Radio. Everyone knows it. It's one of those songs that actually crossed over into the pop charts. Yeah. And I just listened to it, and I always admire how well arranged that song is and how catchy it is. So Robin Crosby, he was such a major part of that band. I think he was sorely missed. Warren DeMartini, great guitarist. He's a bit of a guitar hero on the Sunset Strip. And I just think the band had it really going. The first 2 albums are kind of essential. They were like, the thinking man's hair metal band.
I agree. For me, Ratt were sort of among that first group of bands that I discovered upon my discovery of metal in 1984. Round and Round was the key track. It was so catchy. The music video was kind of disturbing to me when the girl's going up into the attic and just kind of like pulling off the second skin and transforming into a metal chick. Yeah, and it had Milton Berle in it. I think they had some relationship with Milton Berle.
Yes, they did. I think his son or a relative was like the part of the Ratt management. But,
that's correct. It was management. Yeah. We have Ash with Saturday Night by Cold Chisel.
Oh, what a classic song.
We have Henry Wright appreciating the Ratt. Oh, Dancing Queen by Boss. I don't know that one, Ash.
Yes, I saw Boss a fair amount in the day. Yes, great band.
Pete Jones with Roads to Madness by Queensryche. The second appearance of Queensryche. Oh, and a second appearance for Ratt. I'm Insane. Wow, that's a
Pete's on the money.
That's a deep cut.
Yes.
Okay. My second pick. We're going to continue with pop, but we're going to go a little bit more pop. And Peter, I just want to tell you, I should have been gone long ago with some Steve Perry. Gosh, everybody knows that hook. Everybody knows that hook. And that music video was so goofy. I was kind of wanting to pick Journey, but it turns out that this wasn't a year for Journey, 1984. Steve was too busy becoming a solo star. And I don't own the album. I don't own Street Talk, but I do have the greatest hits. There's the man right there, Steve Perry, one of the greatest singers in music. That hook right there demonstrates why. When I was a young fellow in 1984, this was too soft for me. Like Ratt was more my speed. I wasn't into Journey. I wasn't into Steve Perry. I had to mature a little bit. And you can see all that maturity in the color of white on my face. But today, I love me some Steve Perry. And if Tim Derling was watching right now, I would hope that he would high-five me. So there you go. Oh, Sherry, Steve Perry.
Look, I'll high-five you. That was the first hit of anything that was sort of Journey-orientated in Australia. So Journey could barely get arrested in Australia, but that was a big hit. And I think it went top 5. And I own the single. I love it. 45. Great.
Pete Jones picked a different Steve Perry song. That's excellent.
I like it. It's the alternative 10.
Yes.
Spot on.
Boss. I don't even know who Boss is.
Yeah, Boss were kind of like a band similar to Heaven. They're kind of meat and potatoes, AC/DC. They had a singer called Craig Soniati. I don't know if I got a pronunciation. Had a bit of a Robert Plant vibe. And yeah, they could have been. They were. They used to tour the pubs up and down the coast, the east coast of Australia, and I saw them multiple times in the 80s. They're a pretty good band.
We have Ash with another Ratt song, and Attitude song by Steve Vai. That used to be a staple on Q107, a Toronto rock station, and I've realized I forgot Harrison's list. So I'm going to get us caught up on Harrison's list in no order. He also went with We Rock by Dio, but I swear that's 1983.
It's 1984. I just did little cross-check because it could be something in my list.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then I neglected Dio, so it's good that these guys did include Dio. He also has some Iron Maiden and some Judas Priest, which takes us back to the Battle of 1984 a few months ago. The Sentinel by Priest and Aces High by Iron Maiden, which were 2 songs that got praised by Pete Jones and I when we did our show on what we called the Battle of 1984. And Ash is into the 4th pick with Beyond the Black by Metal Church. Wow. You guys are going heavy. It's my turn now, right?
No, you just did Steve Perry. So it's my turn. So I'm going to go Maiden. Let's talk about 2 Minutes to Midnight. So 2 Minutes to Midnight and Aces High. What a power punch. That's a great 1-2 on Power Slave. There's not too many first 2 opening tracks that are just, pow like that.
Yeah.
I love it. And Maiden are coming out to Australia in September. They were supposed to come out in COVID a couple of years ago. I cannot wait. And I'm also going to see the night before the show in Sydney, British Lion, which is Steve Harris's band. He's doing a one-off show in Sydney. I've never heard any of their tracks, so I'm going to go in as a newbie. I think I might buy the CD on the weekend and just familiarize myself, but it's just going to be a total Maiden fest. And I might catch up with Melissa Nee. She's in the country. She'll be flying from America. So, yeah, it's all September's going to be the Maiden month. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I might let the cat out of the bag. I've been offered a ticket to go see Maiden in October in Toronto. I've yet to.
You have to go, mate.
But let's get this out of the way.
No pressure.
Let's get this out of the way. Let's do it. Let's just get it out of the way. Here's the album. We've all been talking about it. We've had Aces High by Harrison. We've had 2 Minutes to Midnight. We've had Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I'm going to go for a completely different song. I'm going to go with a song that I've talked about a number of times. Power Slave itself. What an epic. I think it's 6 or 7 minutes long. One of my absolute favorite Adrian Smith guitar solos I've ever heard. It's one of those guitar solos where I just have the hooks memorized. I can sing the guitar solo. I love the way there's a kind of a quiet part in the middle of the song. Pete Jones knows exactly what I'm talking about. Kind of slows down a little bit. You can hear the bass deliver the melody, and probably Dave Murray is playing a little bit of a soft guitar melody, and then it picks up again. Power Slave is one of the absolute best tracks on this album, and there's a hilarious story about the lyrics that Pete Jones told back when we did the 1984. You can check it out in my YouTube shorts. But what happened was on the Peace of Mind tour, Bruce Dickinson caused a little kerfuffle backstage. It didn't cause, but exasperated a little kerfuffle backstage between Nico McBrain and Steve Harris. And it involved Steve Harris tackling Bruce Dickinson and almost stomping upon a cassette that Bruce was using to record a backstage argument. That cassette contained the lyrics to Power Slave itself. And if Steve had succeeded in destroying that cassette, we might not have that song today. But what we do have today is a little B-side called Mission from Airy, which is the story that we're talking about. And that is on this 2-CD deluxe edition of Power Slave. So there's my long-winded story about why I chose the title track, Power Slave.
Look, that's probably my favorite Iron Maiden album. It's right up there. I think it's great. I think they were like absolute stone cold peak in that 80s period up to about 88, 89.
Yeah, I would say the run from, well, some people would say from 81 to 88, but I would argue 82 to 88. But we'll that's a whole other
another
subject.
show. It's another show. Yep.
And just to get a Harrison pick out of the way, we're going to be seeing this album. I guarantee it. But he picked Deep Purple, Knocking on Your Back Door. And I'm not going to say too much because I think we'll have more to say.
Yes, we will.
Here's an interesting story too. Is Mission from Airy happened? I almost said happened. Mission from Airy happened in his hometown of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Oh, geez. Oh, look, man, these guys are getting ahead of me. Santers. That's a Canadian pick, Ash. That's interesting. Back for More was on his list. If he would have had 4. I know they're talking about Ratt, but my brain isn't picking up on the conversation. Okay, that's my pick. What's your next one, Peter?
Okay, I'm going to go something maybe a little bit obscure to a lot of the folk. There was a concept album that came out in 1984 called Phenomena. And yes, and it features the wonderful vocals of Glenn Hughes. I, in fact, did a show on Rock Daydream Nation with the great Peter Jones and Reed Little. We did a bit of a deep dive analysis. But the song I'm going to pick is Dance with the Devil. I love that song. And I just really think that Glenn Hughes has never sung better. Glenn Hughes, the bass player of Deep Purple, I think that he's never sung better than that particular track. And he is actually going to be in Australia, I think, in October for the Deep Purple show. He's finally wrapping up and finishing doing his tribute to Deep Purple. I think he plays all the tracks from Burn and Stormbringer. And I've got a meet and greet. So I'll be presenting the Phenomena album. I've heard he doesn't like that album and doesn't play any tracks. So I don't know. Hope he doesn't throw the album back at me. But anyway, I'm looking forward to catching up and seeing the show.
That's pretty good. I'm hoping Rock Daydream Nation will be covering this epic event. But 84, Glenn was not doing well health-wise in 84. And from 84 for quite a while onwards. So he might
so much potential, Mike. So much potential.
I mean, I'm a fan of Seventh Star, Black Sabbath. I'm a fan of Phenomenon. That's a good album. Phoenix Rising is a great song.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Pete Jones with Prince from Purple Rain. Now, Peter and I were discussing Purple Rain offline, and we basically decided we're going to go a little bit harder than that for our lists. But we could have loaded it with Purple Rain songs.
Look, we might talk about that later because that's definitely Prince. If I had to pick the overall 1984, there'd definitely be Prince in the top 10, top 5, maybe, probably.
Yeah. And if I was picking one from Purple Rain, my pick was going to be Computer Blue. And
Let's Go Crazy for me, probably. Purple Rain's a great song. Oh, look, there's not a dud track. I think that's one of my all-time favorite albums. It's probably in my top 10 of all time. I don't think there is a dud track on that album.
There isn't. I can vouch for that.
No.
And there's a whole Rock Daydream Nation episode about it, folks.
Yeah.
All right. Where are we? Who's next? It's not me next, is it? It's me?
Yes, it is.
It is me. Okay. Well, I'm going back to pop rock. I was a big Styx fan when I was a young fella. Styx were the first rock band I ever liked. First rock band I ever really, really heard. and I just got an annoying pop-up on my screen and I can't get rid of it. Oh, God. Okay, there it is. Styx had split in 1984. They did a live album, but the one studio track in that live album was a song called Music Time, and I wouldn't rate it in a top 10 of Styx or anything really. There were also 2 solo albums that year. Dennis DeYoung, lead vocalist and pianist, put out Desert Moon, but I had to go with my man Tommy Shaw and Girls with Guns. So good. It's that little synth hook at the beginning of the song. It's, mostly the hooks are that synth, and there's a lot of electronic drums going on. Very current, very 1984, a very echoey chorus. It's a very gimmicky song, but darn, I sure liked it when it came out. I saw it on the TV, and I'm like, Tommy Shaw from Styx. Oh, wow, cool. And I don't think I really appreciated the fact that Styx were basically done. I didn't realize that these guys weren't necessarily coming back to do another Styx album, but I really did like Girls with Guns, and it's not a bad album. It's not terrific, but it's not a bad album. I enjoy that song, that one song most of all. And it just brings me right back because, like I said, that was the year that we got Much Music in Canada, as I've told you many times. And they didn't have a lot of music videos to play in 1984 when they first started out. So you'd hear stuff like Girls with Guns on, regular midday rotation. You'd never have that today. And it gave Tommy Shaw and similar Dennis DeYoung saw that music video, gave them exposure. And to this day, I love Girls with Guns. Yeah, Tommy Shaw.
You don't hear that sort of music anymore, Mike.
No, you don't.
All that sort of music like Styx, Journey, it's gone. It's, you just don't hear that on the radio. I was in America for a couple of weeks and just listening to the radio, you just don't hear that style of music. It's just, it's just disappeared.
It's true. And even Styx, they do not do that style of music anymore that they used to do in the 80s and even the 70s. That Broadway influence is gone. A lot of the pop influence is gone. I had many words with Davey Cretin about this. He does not like the current Styx compared to the old. And, sadly, you just have some personalities that will never function together again.
Yes. Anyway. Hey, Mike, if you don't mind, can I rattle off some movies?
Yeah, let's hear some movies.
Let's talk some movies. So I thought it'd be just a nice injection into the show if I could just rattle over some movies with the viewers of what was big in 1984 and what I saw in the cinema, and maybe you saw these movies at the same time. So I just looked at the IMDb. I picked the top 200. I'm not going to rattle 200 because I'm going to that'd bore everyone to tears. But here's some movies I saw in the cinemas and just join in. Ghostbusters, Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie Murphy, saw that twice. The Terminator, what a movie. A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, Amadeus, Police Academy. Man, what a hit. I think I saw that twice. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yep.
Man, that was quite a strange movie. Top Secret.
Yes.
Gremlins, Romancing the Stone, Revenge of the Nerds, Red Dawn. This is Spinal Tap, which we just talk about, and I've watched that like 50 times every year. The Last Starfighter. I know that's one of your favorites.
Yes. Bachelor
Party, Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, Conan the Destroyer, 2010. Looking through the list if there's anything else. Razorback, that was about the killer bush pig. Purple Rain.
Yeah.
Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Woman in Red. Cannonball Run 2. Don't ask me why.
Oh, I love 2. I love 2.
My favorite bit in Cannonball Run 2, going off on a tangent, is where they all meet up with Frank Sinatra at the end. And it's obvious that Frank's not in the same movie.
Yeah.
They just filmed him, and then they just do a reaction shot of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis.
Yes, I noticed that as well. I recently rented that movie, actually.
It's just like it's a bad movie, but I cannot explain why I like it. In fact, I like a lot of Burt Reynolds films that, like Stroker's Ace and Cannonball Run and all those really good old boy car crash movies, but I just can't explain it because they're total trash.
The first two, Smokey and the Bandits.
Oh, Smoking the Bandit is great. Greystoke, Tarzan, what else? Ghoulies. The list goes on and on. What was your favorite movie from 1984?
Well,
any in that list?
Yeah, The Last Starfighter easily, because we actually didn't see a lot of those films in the cinema. We only saw, of those ones, we saw Gremlins, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, and The Last Starfighter in the cinema. Everything else we saw later on pay TV, and they usually followed like 9 to 12 months later. So stuff like Police Academy, we didn't see until 85. But if I had seen it in 84, it would have been one of our favorites from that year. We were obsessed with that movie once we finally did see it. And to be honest with you, we didn't understand a lot of the humor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's funny you mention that because Jex Russell just lost his copy of Police Academy this week. He accidentally donated the DVD to a thrift shop. He lost his copy this week. Oh,
that was a huge hit. And as I said, I saw that twice, and they were actually very rare in Australia. They would have 5 cinemas actually playing Police Academy in the multiplex. It was such a big hit. Look, it was diminishing returns. 2 was just too much Bobcat Goldthwait. 3, it just got worse and worse. And by the time it went to 5 and 6, Mission to Rush or whatever, it was definitely over and out. But Except No Substitute, the first movie. I think my favorite movie of 84 was definitely The Terminator. It was a movie that was made on a shoestring budget, but it was just so inventive and creative. And you knew that you were looking at something really special. And it was so damn exciting.
Now, here's a question for you. How do you think we would have been liking The Terminator today if they ended up casting Blackie Lawless as the Terminator? Like they say that's what the story, right? Blackie says that's the story.
No, I don't think that. No, it's got to be Arnold.
Yeah.
Except No Substitute. And, it made him into a superstar, seriously.
Yeah.
And out of the whole Terminator series, I know a lot of folk love number 2. Number 1 is the best, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Terminator is the best movie.
Number 1 has the tension. It has the real serious, like you are fearing for your protagonist. Like how will they get out of this? They're being pursued by this relentless machine. And when you think that they've slowed him down, nothing stops it,
Yeah. But it's just the way it's edited, it's cut. It's just an exciting piece of filmmaking. And to think that James Cameron, his previous movie was Piranha 2.
Yeah, right. This was his
Flying
first
Killers. Which was just total trash, is just completely out of the box.
This was his first movie that really mattered. And Johnny's right. I may have had that Blackie thing wrong. I do know they were looking at Lance Henriksen at one point to play the Terminator, but obviously that they went with a completely different vibe.
Well, Lance was in the movie. He was the police in the police commissioner, and that was the famous scene where Arnie goes, "I'll be back."
Yeah. And Lance Henriksen, of course, has appeared in Jim Cameron movies since.
Absolutely.
But that's another story.
There's my movies from 84. So
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do I have 6 picks left? I think I have 6 picks left.
Let's keep going.
I'm going to go with them. Everybody knows my favorite band in the world is Kiss, but I'm not going with Heaven's on Fire. I'm going with Thrills in the Night. I think it's a much better song. For whatever reason, Paul Stanley does not think highly of Thrills in the Night, or at least he doesn't speak highly of it. I don't know why. I think it's a far better song. Man, and I loved the music video. It was, one of those fake live music videos, and a lot of the footage was taken from the Detroit concert that became Animalized Live. But it was so iconic to me. And there's bits in there where Paul Stanley is playing his guitar, and he's doing this kind of spinny dance around the stage, and the tassels on his pants are flying in the air, and it's like, that influenced me so much as a kid. I would grab my little badminton racket and run into the middle of the street trying to duplicate Paul Stanley's moves. Other kids were trying to do David Lee Roth's like splits jump from the Jump video or the spiral kick jump. I was trying to be Paul Stanley. So representing Kiss from 1984 is my favorite song off this album, which actually I don't even like this album that much, but I do like Thrills in the Night. I like it a lot. So there's Kiss.
Yeah, it's got one of Gene Simmons' best songs with the lyric "Throw a log in the fireplace."
One of his absolute worst songs. And second pick for Enemy Within by Rush. Let's get caught up here. Resurrection Band. Yeah, I don't know if they released something in 84. They did in 85. No, yeah, I remember that song.
I don't think it's a guilty pleasure. It's good.
No,
great.
there's no guilty pleasure.
No.
And I think the Res Band, they did an album in 85, but they might have done one in 84. Who knows? And Harrison, 1984. He picked Ride the Lightning by Metallica. And we'll talk a little bit more about that album in a bit. And there you go. Maybe Res did release an album in 84. Okay, there you go. They did. All right, Peter, what do you got?
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit into a different direction, something a little bit more evil, a little bit darker, and I'm going to bring up King Diamond. I'm a bit of a fan of the old King Diamond, and Merciful Fate brought out one of their classic albums, Don't Break the Oath, and I'm going to pick Come to the Sabbath.
Ooh.
So, look, I think Merciful Fate or King Diamond, the musicianship, it was just absolutely outworldly. The guitar work, the arrangements. I think whether you like Merciful Fate or King Diamond is whether you can groove on the singing.
Right.
If you like the singing, that's the deal break. And I think over time, I just think it works. I like his singing. And, to do that falsetto is, that's kind of a work of art. It's really hard to do that sort of falsetto because King Diamond in a song can play all these different characters. He goes low, he goes high. There's real skill and talent. It's not just, going up into the upper register and hoping for the best. So anyway, Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath. I think it's a great album. And I think I've heard a rumor that King Diamond may have some more material coming out finally this year. So stay tuned.
That's good to hear. And one really notable thing about when he does that high note, it's clean. There's a lot of those guys, they get up there and their voice starts to crack. No, not King Diamond. It's clean. He hits those notes powerful and clean. Pete Jones with Follow Your Heart by Triumph. Now, I thought that was 85. See, I full disclaimer, folks, I've had a really crazy week and I haven't been able to do the prep that I normally do. This song was on my radar, but I dismissed it early because I thought it was 85. I might be wrong. No, I am wrong because they did the Live Stages album in 85. So good one, Pete, for representing Triumph, some Canadian content that should have made my list. There's two of us with Merciful Fate. I'm not following that conversation as easily. Oh, yes. I used to see them in the magazines mostly. I used to see them in magazines. And 1984. There you go. Thanks, Meat. We've talked about this album a little bit already, so let's get it out of the way. We have Ride the Lightning by Metallica, which I personally think is maybe their best or second best album. It's hard for me to choose between this and Puppets. But this is the album that they did in 1984, and to me, there's only one song on here that I could pick, and that's Creeping Death. It is so epic, Creeping Death. Just everything about it. The riffs, the verses, the die, the chant. You gotta love it, and it got them in trouble with the Bible thumpers a little bit. But you gotta love Metallica for poking the bear. A lot of people think that Metallica really kind of peaked at this point. Some people think they peaked on Kill 'Em All, but you can definitely hear an argument for a peak on Ride the Lightning. You've got 8 amazing tracks, and Harrison picked one of them, Trapped Under Ice, for his artwork. If you take a look at the artwork that Harrison did for today's show, there's a little guy encased in ice at the very bottom of the picture, and that represents the song Trapped Under Ice by Metallica. So I picked Creeping Death. What's that?
Yeah, first 3 albums, except No Substitute. You're spot on. Kill 'Em All, that was a game changer. Ride the Lightning, and Master for Puppets. I think that was I think that was the cycle, the first cycle for Metallica. And, with the, death of Cliff Burton, they were, in my book, not quite the same.
Agreed. We have Uncle Meat just missing Creeping Death on his list. And Harrison, I'm going to throw one out here for Johnny Metal. Harrison picked I Want to Be Somebody by Wasp. There you go. We got some Wasp. And that's important also to my personal history, because Wasp were one of the first bands I ever loved. I had a Wasp t-shirt that I'm sure my teachers loved. Anyway, over to you, Peter. Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. With Peter Jones and all.
We'll get there.
Whitesnake. I did a show with Pete on Whitesnake, and yeah, definitely. The UK version is where it's at. Even though there's a couple of US remix versions that are not too bad. All right, my pick is Just Got Lucky by Dokken.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love Dokken. Tooth and Nail. That's where it's at. Lynch. What a
Yes.
guitar hero. George Lynch.
Yes.
Don Dokken. His voice. That's where it's at. And they came out with a style of music that was kind of unique, and they were definitely a cut above the hair metal or what was on the Sunset Strip at that particular time. And I think maybe if they didn't have a goofy album cover, and if the image was a bit different, and they were a little bit less glammy, a bit more denim, a bit more street cred, and the videos weren't as goofy, they could have broken into the mainstream because the songs are so good.
Yes. I wonder if Dokken were just a little bit too much on the metal side of their image for the mainstream, because they had what I call the post-apocalyptic image, where their clothes are all ragged and they've got little bits of strips of material tied here and there and hither and yon, and it looks like they just came out of a post-apocalyptic wasteland, or as Martin Popoff once put it, the explosion in the costume factory. But I wonder if maybe they were just a little bit too metal in their image for the mainstream.
The thing that gets me is this Rolling Stone magazine did a poll of the 100 greatest guitarists, and Lynch is not in it.
No, it's not.
I don't get it. That guy, it was so influential, and it's because he's not included in the list because of, that's hair metal.
Yeah.
That Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
Not getting his dues, because I can tell you, I saw him in the Lynch Mob. They came out earlier this year, played a glam festival in Sydney, and I was just mesmerized. He's still got it. He's got the chops. Such a creative, inventive guitarist.
And the Meat Man just named one of his best solos right there. That's one of his best solos. Very, very, very much like what I said about Adrian Smith, where you can hum the solo, you can sing it. Oh, that's a great pick.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad you picked some of these Dokkens and Rats and things that didn't make the cut for me. We've mentioned, you know what? I'm going to pick something here that we haven't really gone too deep on yet. Some of these other ones, we've talked about the albums a bit, but here's one that nobody's picked a song from yet. And I got to say, possibly one of the most influential bands of 1984. This band, not only did they have a history to them stretching back to the 1960s, but they had a major motion picture in the theater. And we're talking about Spinal Tap. And the question is, how much more black can you get? And the answer is none. None more black. And I honestly, when they first came out, I did not know this was a fictional band. Their English accents are so good. They are so good. Very few people can do better in English accents than Michael McKean, Harry Shearer, and David, why can't I remember his name now? Nigel Tufnell's played by, help me out, folks, I'm having a brain fart. Christopher Guest. And of course, we had Rob Reiner directing the film, and he has a co-write credit on every single track. And I listened to this album a number of times on the weekend with Jen in the car, and she laughed at all the right spots during Big Bottom and Sex Farm and things like that. But then you get to my favorite song. You get to Stonehenge. And regardless of the silly lyrics and the twinkling keyboards and the You know, it's not that far removed from things that were happening in real rock at the time. There's an edge here that Slade was also carrying. You know, this isn't far removed. And of course, the big embarrassment was Black Sabbath were out there with a Stonehenge monument on stage in 1984 with Ian Gillan. And, you know, that was an unfortunate coincidence for them, and it didn't help. But this is a brilliant soundtrack. I listened to all the Spinal Tap on the weekend, and this is by far the best Spinal Tap release still to date. These are raw, rough versions of these songs, and it's perfect. Everything about this soundtrack is perfect. So, Stonehenge, Spinal Tap.
That's one of the few movies, like, you go to a comedy movie and you might go tee-hee, have a little bit of a chortle. But that movie, I was laughing so much, I thought I was dying. When you're bending over and you're going to literally wet your pants. It's Airplane is another one.
Yes.
That one. And I think the scene that really got me is when he's doing the guitar solo and he's got the violin and he's got his foot strumming. And to me, that just summed up all the wankery of a lot of the bad excesses of heavy metal and rock, the pretentiousness of guitar solos. There's so many good scenes. Or the bit where he gets trapped in the pod.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he can't get out until the very end. Brilliant. And, there's a lot of pretty big names in that movie. That's Angelica Houston, who built the Stonehenge Monument, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken, that was Angelica Houston in the film that did the Stonehenge Monument. Billy Crystal's got a bit part as a mime.
Yeah, Mime is money. Come on.
That's right. That's right. And
Mime
honestly, this was one of the songs that I kept coming back to on the weekend was Cups and Cakes. I'm so full, my tummy aches. I had to look up what treacles were because the treacles were so clear and I didn't know what a treacle was, but it's just so quaint. There is a fine line between clever and stupid. Oh, look at that. St. Elmo's Fire. So many great songs. My God. ZZ Top. I thought that was 83 as well. Eliminator, I thought was 83. And of course, D minor is the saddest of all keys, as we know. If I'm wrong about ZZ Top being 83, then I have neglected to pick a ZZ Top song for my list.
Yeah, look, I'm sure ZZ Top released singles in 84, so you could probably just...
technicalities.
Yeah, it's a technicality.
Oh, you know what, Ash? Also, great pick. I wanted to pick this one, but c'est la vie, right? So thanks for picking Dancing in the Dark. Of course, it took him 19 picks to get there, though, I will point out. Ash slightly bending the rules. Okay, before we get to your next pick, I just want to mention something else that happened in 1984, which was very important to me. And that is there was a toy line, a comic book, and a TV show that all launched in 1984. And it involved little robots that turned into cassettes and tape recorders and whatnot. And these really sparked the imagination of the kids in my neighborhood, and I still love them today. And this guy turns into a little micro cassette, which were a thing in 1984. So yes, it was the debut of the Transformers in North America in 1984. There you go.
And while we're on that pop culture, I might rattle a few shows that came out in 84. Murder, She Wrote. I know that was probably your favorite, Mike.
My parents loved it.
Yeah. Miami Vice. Oh, who didn't like Miami Vice?
Right.
Night Court, The Cosby Show. Gee, that's aged well.
Yeah.
The Bill, for those English folk. Highway to Heaven. Who's the Boss? Airwolf. Santa Barbara. Hunter. Charles in Charge. Punky Brewster. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Robin Hood. The Mike Hammer. Jeopardy. It's Your Move. Anyway, yada, yada, yada.
Wow. Did you
There
say
you go.
Jeopardy?
Well, that's what it says.
Wow.
I think
didn't
that
know
might have been a different version.
Yes,
of
it was a
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, a redo of Jeopardy, but that would have been like the Alex Trebek version of Jeopardy debuted in 1984, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, V. Remember V, that limited miniseries? No, that might have been only in North America.
No, that was a huge hit in Australia and
wow.
starred Robert Englund, who was known as Freddy Krueger. He was in it. And
Michael Ironside was in it too.
Absolutely, and turned into a little series. So I think it
Yeah.
had 2 mini series, and then it turned into a weekly series that kind of petered out. But yeah, that was a great show.
Yeah. It was a good time for science fiction fans.
It was. Steven Spielberg was king, wasn't he?
Well, not Temple of Doom, uh, but we did have, the Terminator kicking off an entire franchise,
Mm,
and The Last Starfighter really was a lightning in a bottle kind of moment for science fiction. It was really nice, and it was never continued. Oh,
yep.
look at that! Going with Australian content here.
Oh, loved Midnight Oil. Absolutely.
All right, why don't you pick another song, Peter?
I will indeed. Dio, Last in Line. Got to do it. So, to me, a lot of folks say about the first album, but I've always been a bit of a Last in Line fan. I think that band was fantastic, and it's got so much drama. It's kind of got that really sort of soft intro, and then it just roars. And I don't think Vivian Campbell has ever sounded better. I think that lineup of Dio, Campbell, Bain, and Vinny Appice they just had brilliant chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think Holy Divers, I like it, but to me, my personal relationship with that band is the Last in Line, and that song, Last in Line. I think it's just an epic Dio song, and that summarizes what Dio's all about, that gothic epic sound.
And let's not neglect the music video, which was science fiction, horror, creepy, very, very ahead of its time, if you ask me, because I keep seeing things from that music video creeping me out in movies and shows today. There's characters in there that look like the Borg from Star Trek, that was a really, really good music video with the band playing very minor roles in it. Really enjoyed it. And that is a great song too, because I love that acoustic intro.
Yeah. Are you so Holy Diver or Last in Line for you?
I listen to Holy Diver more as an album, but I might like some of the songs on Last in Line better because it's also has Mystery. Mystery's a great little pop rock tune.
Yeah, it is. And do you think Sacred Heart's a bit underrated? Because that gets dissed a bit.
I like Sacred Heart a lot, but honestly, if we're going to talk Dio, I love Dream Evil. Love Dream Evil. That's probably my favorite of the first 4. It's the one I play the most of the first 4.
Yeah, and that was really the end of the commercial era for Dio, wasn't it? After that, it sort of was a bit of a off the cliff a little bit.
Yeah, there was the 90s taper off with Lock Up the Wolves, and then he rejoined Sabbath.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, Last in Line. Dio.
Yeah, good pick. This album has come up a number of times. Harrison picked the Sentinel, and just to differ with Harrison because we have to pick a different song, I'm going to go with Rock Hard Ride Free. I had a Judas Priest t-shirt that said Rock Hard Ride Free on it. I love this album. Again, this came up during the Battle of '84 with Pete Jones. I love pretty much everything on this album. It was so metal. This was like the epiphany. This was the pinnacle, the apex of that metal look in the 80s. Even though Rob Halford had the short cropped hair, it was still very much a metal look. Edge of punk, maybe. Even Spikes translated through metal and punk. But, they looked like a metal band. They had the black leather. They had the evil looking mascot that was, look at all the sharp edges on this thing. They were hitting it right during the start of that MTV age with some music videos that were very visually striking with Freewheel Burning, also incorporating the video game aspect, and Love Bites with a laser show and a stage show and all this other stuff. Parents were terrified of this band with the word priest in their name. They had just all the right elements for 1984. But when I put on the album and I heard the songs, I'm like, this isn't so scary. Rock Hard Ride Free all night, all day, Sounds good to me, my friends. It's very anthemic, and I love the whole thing. But Rock Hard Ride Free is the song that I will represent in my 10.
That's a great pick. Look, Priest to me in the 80s is screaming for vengeance, but that was a mighty fine follow-up And I think it's an album that has aged really well.
I think so. And, I remember it being considered sort of a step down. It was considered that because it was
Yes.
not as fast and maybe the production was a little bit muddier than Screaming. I think Martin kind of rates those 80s albums in diminishing returns. But I think it's done well in hindsight for sure. And a lot of people forget. They just forget and forgive those transgressions that they had in the 80s. Like, oh, the band is selling out with a song like Love Bites. It's too soft. It's too slow. They sold out. People forgive all those transgressions. We forget all that stuff years later.
Yeah, I think it's a different sounding song, and I think they were trying different things. It was a different sort of direction. I couldn't hear that. You couldn't imagine Love Bites being on Screaming for Vengeance. It would be a bit of an outrider, but yeah, like I think to me, it's a bit more of an experimental album, and they're trying different things. So
agreed. And Johnny Metal, that was actually the song that none of the kids liked in our neighborhood, but I love now because we didn't want the slow stuff back then. Ash, they sold out on Turbo. Yes, but we forgive. We forgive.
Well, I've actually defended Turbo. Watch the Contrarians.
There you go.
And I'm probably alone.
You're not. I would defend it as an album that is a unique island in the sea of metal. There's nothing else that sounds like it. Nothing. Oh, and there's Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner one more time from Pete Jones. There you go. Power Slave getting a lot of love tonight.
Great song.
Oh, we haven't done any Harrisons in a bit. Here, let's get caught up with Harrison. Cold Chisel, Temptation, and Scorpions, Rock You Like a Hurricane.
That's not in my 10, but it'd be bubbling under. That'd be like, just on the cusp.
And there you go. We defended Turbo on the Year of the Priest. Yes, that's right. All right. Over to you.
Okay. Hot for Teacher, Van Halen. Man, the drumming, the guitar work, the crazy video, David's personality, they're just having fun. And I just remember there was this video show. I think it was Tales from Castle Donington. You know, the Donington Festival in England?
Yeah.
And they interviewed AC/DC about Van Halen. And Angus said, oh, yeah, they're a pop band, aren't they? Sort of really downplaying. And there was a lot of this was Van Halen's return to the UK. They hadn't played there for a long time. And there was a lot of sort of conjecture. How would the crowd react to Van Halen? Because they were kind of, the crowd was very into the meat and potatoes. And Van Halen was regarded as something a little bit more razzmatazz. And they show some footage, and Hot for Teacher, the crowd goes absolutely wild, and they're just absolutely on fire. You can see bottles being thrown up in the air and people crowd surfing. And I think I've read stories that was the song that turned the crowd around to just really embrace Van Halen, because Van Halen hardly toured anywhere outside the US because, quite frankly, they didn't need to, because the US, they were superstars. They didn't need to do Europe and the rest of the world. I mean, Australia only got them right at the end, and I finally got to see them for a different kind of truth. One show in Sydney. But anyway, a bit long and rambly. Hot for Teacher, that is the song. I just love it. I think that encapsulates the fun side of Van Halen, where Eddie's just riffing and doing those pyrotechnics on the fretboard, and you've got Dave's personality and the wonderful drumming of Alex Van Halen.
Yes, I am with you. Pete Jones never wants to hear it again, but I am with you. And we also have Kick Axe on the Road to Rock, which I almost picked. I almost picked On the Road to Rock, but it didn't make the cut. And Aaron Stewart just finished watching Terminator 2. So Aaron, when you're done, rewind and get to where we talked about movies about mid-show, because Peter Kerr saw the first Terminator in 1984 in the cinema, and we discussed that in detail. Aliens, Warlord. Oh, that was 83. That was 83 for sure. The Reflex by Duran Duran. Okay, and there's Johnny Metal. Now, this is definitely 84. If I had to say to you, Peter, if I had to say, pick an activity where nobody hurts, nobody cries, nobody dies.
Trivial Pursuit.
Might as well go for a soda. Kim Mitchell of Max Webster's solo debut album, but not solo debut because he did an excellent EP in around 82. This is his solo debut album, Akimbo a Logo. It had 2 covers, and I'm not sure the story why. The hat that he's wearing there, OPP, that's Ontario Provincial Police, and that was his iconic hat for very many years. However, I'm not picking Go for a Soda. I'm not. I'm picking instead a track called All We Are. And this is a remarkable ballad. It's mostly synth. It basically breaks the rules of us sticking to rock songs because it has barely any rock in it. Has some guitar, but it's mostly synth. It's like, I think, the first song that Kim Mitchell wrote on keyboards. And it features a soaring chorus by his backing vocalist, a guy by the name of Peter Fredette, who was his backing vocalist and rhythm guitar player at the time. He switched to bass from this point forward. When it came out, it was almost too soft for me, but I kept listening and kept listening. And there's something just very special about this song. It's one of those songs that only could have come out in the 80s because it has so much of that programming and synth. But it's special. That's the most accurate word I can come up with for All We Are by Kim Mitchell. I hope Meat can chime in with a comment about All We Are, because it is just a remarkable song. Ooh, David Gilmour, About Face, near the end. And Crocus, Midnight Maniac, that's a good one. Heard that around the same time as Quiet Riot and Ratt and all those other bands. And Ash Giving Pete, The Props. Okay. How many songs do you have left?
I have, I think 2.
I have 2 as well, so we're on track.
Yeah, we are on track. Okay, I am going to pick Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple. So this was off the reunion. There you go. And in my opinion, this is their best song. I just love the little Kashmir riff of Richie Blackmore. His playing's on fire. The band sounds wonderful. And this was the reunion that did so well in 1984. And yeah, Perfect Strangers. I love that album. And along with that and Knocking at Your Back Door, probably my favorite 2 tracks off that album. But Perfect
Which Harrison
Strangers
picked.
Yeah.
All We Are, the only real love song Pi Dubois ever wrote. There you go. Pi Dubois is the lyricist. He wrote the lyrics for Kim Mitchell and Max Webster. And Venom at War with Satan. That's a little bit of a switch from Kim Mitchell. Well, Peter, I'm just going to say, yes, I agree. That's also my same pick. It was either going to be that or Backdoor. And since Harrison picked Backdoor, I went with Perfect Strangers. And you mentioned that cashmere flavor. To expand upon that, for me, it's also just John Lord's, I guess you'd call it the keyboard voice that he's using, because that's obviously not real strings. That you know,
Richie's doing a little bit of the, the Kashmir
yeah,
chords is Martin Popoff. So there's a little bit of guitar twangery in that song.
Yes,
Yeah.
There's the guitar and Lord's keyboards kind of combined in unison, really, to create that sound. It's almost like they're playing in sync,
Yeah, well, Lordy was always like a rhythm player, wasn't he, Mike? He was like the second guitarist, just doing, on the bottom end.
Very much so, yeah. And that's
Great
why
album. Love it.
That's also a good reason why you should listen to multiple versions of Deep Purple, because they've changed key musicians so many times and gone from strength to strength, and they're all different. So there you go. Out of the way, Deep Purple. Your last track, I guess?
Yeah, look, I'm just going to tell you there was a couple of honorable mentions before I go to number 1. So Love Ain't No Stranger, Whitesnake, that just missed out. UK version. In fact, I'm very more on the UK version of Slide It In, because you just hear the wonderful, the Cosy Powell drum sounds a lot better. And Neil Murray's, I think it was Colin Bomber Hodgkinson. His bass is a bit more up in the mix. I just like it. It's just more raw and grungy. Also, Rock You Like a Hurricane by the Scorpions. That was definitely on the cusp. And anyway, I will go to my number one. I have picked Fight Fire with Fire by Metallica because I think that was a game changer off Ride the Lightning. I think it's a great song. And they used to have a show on an FM radio station in Sydney called Triple M. And on Saturday night, they had the Midnight Metal Shop and they played that song. And I had the headphones because when you're a kid or a teenager, I used to listen to a lot of music before I'd go to sleep and radio or records or whatnot. And that came on and I thought, whoa, what is that? And to me, that changed the face of kind of heavy metal, going into that really sort of speed metal, full on aggression. And it was a path of music that I really liked. So there you go.
And that's, what would you say? Would you say that's the fastest song on Ride the Lightning?
It's right up there.
Yeah, good pick. Well, this album has been talked about many times, so let's show it. Here it is. This is the deluxe edition of Slide It In. Has the US mix and has the UK mix. And every single person I've talked to prefers the UK mix, which makes me feel like an ass when I say I prefer the US mix. But that's the one I was raised on, right? It's the one I have the nostalgia for. I would always pick those versions just for that reason alone. And I guess I got to go with Love Ain't No Stranger. I got to go with Love Ain't No Stranger. It's so good. And I remember, Whitesnake, they hit it late for us, for our age group. We weren't there for the 1984 for Slide It In. It was when these songs started getting replayed in 87 that we heard Love Ain't No Stranger and Slow and Easy for the first time. And I remember Love Ain't No Stranger comes on. I hit record on the TV. My best friend Bob comes over and he's like, what is this? Like, this is old Whitesnake. This is old Whitesnake. And we just got hooked. And we both loved singing the same line. I remember we would sing these songs. We'd be walking to school singing these songs. We always loved singing the same line, which is, Lord have mercy, love ain't no stranger. For some reason, it was that Lord have mercy part, which only sings once in the song. So
it's got these little catchphrases, the old Cov. I love it, or the little breathing or little quips at the end of songs. But,
one thing that he does, which is considered not technically good singing, but is very much a part of his approach, is that you can hear him breathing between lines. I walked alone and I needed love. You can really hear him breathing. And
it's part of him. I couldn't imagine it either way. And we were exchanging some texts prior to the show, and the solo albums of David Coverdale.
Yeah,
the early ones and the Into the Light have been repackaged.
Yes,
and I think in a month or two, there's this special 6 CD deluxe box set he's bringing out, and
it'll look like this. It'll fit
and I said to Mike, "Open the wallet again."
Yeah, so we're gonna get a remixed version of his first two solo albums.
Wallet. Open it up.
Take it, David. Take it. We're gonna get remixed versions of Whitesnake, North Winds, and Into the Light, plus the original mixes, plus a disc of 1968 home demos. It's going to be interesting. I wonder if there's overlap on those home demos between that and the Purple album reissue that came out last year. We're getting a lot more comments here. He exists in a no psych zone, so he doesn't like the US mix at all, I bet.
Oh, sorry, that was the John Sykes intro.
I was hoping Lizzie Thunder and Lightning was an 84 album, but it's 83. Okay. 1984, he was 10. He bought his first season. It was 1983. Okay. But Aaron got it in 1984. So
I reckon
we'll let it slide.
I think it's forgivable. Yeah, you'll let it slide.
Oh, here's some good pop picks. Head Over Heels, Tears for Fears, Killing Moon, Echo and the Bunnymen, and Bad, U2. Run Away.
Can I throw a pop artist that I was probably on my wall and I was like, oh, Madonna. You can't deny the majesty of Madonna. Like a Virgin, I think 1984.
Might have been 84. I think Material Girl came out in 84.
Yep.
I seem to remember that very clearly. I'm not
Into
sure.
Into the Groove. I mean, it was just perfect pop.
What
So,
about John Fogerty, Old Man Down the Road? Was that 84?
yeah.
A lot of those
Maybe.
songs I first. Oh, you know what? California Girls. No, that was 85.
No, that
That was
was
85. Yeah. Okay. Some great picks here, though. We've had a lot of mentions for a lot of singles that definitely carried on into 84 with that, ZZ Top and all that stuff. And
What was in your pop wheelhouse? Were there any pop artists from 84 that you can recall?
I had ejected pop from my life in 1984.
Right.
I went full metal. I went full metal jacket. There was
Duran and all those.
Right. There was a divide. Like, I even remember being in the newspapers with heavy metal on one side and new wave on the other, and never shall they meet. And, I remember there being like a very serious divide, and you couldn't stray from one to the other. You'd be ostracized from the metal group if you did. You'd be called a poser. So I went full metal. That was my thing. I went full metal. And Gowan did not. I don't have any Gowan from 84, but he did do an album in 84. It was just before Strange Animal. Bryan Adams. We talked.
Would that have been Run to You with Reckless have come out in 84?
Yeah,
I love that Run to You. That's a great song.
Yeah, that's a brilliant song. That's a rocker. Pointer Sisters. Yes, Platinum Blonde. Man, we're getting so many good ones in the comments. But folks, that's the show. We're done. As far as I know, we have nothing else to talk about. I was going to do some unboxings, but I'll save them for another time. Harrison sent me a parcel all the way from Australia, and I filmed a video that you will see on Sunday. So look for that on my channel. And as for Rock Daydream Nation, I know you have a bunch of stuff coming. Is there anything that you want to talk about?
Oh, yes, we've got a lot of stuff. So we dropped a show about Crocus and talking about the Blitz and saying, is this maybe an underrated album? Were they an AC/DC ripoff?
Right.
Yeah, so that's done. Also did Jason and the Scorchers, a band that was probably only a bit of a cult band in America, but that's worth checking out. Did a show with Bicycle Legs, Peter Wicks, and the great Harrison from this show, which is going to drop very soon, where we pick our favorite Australian rock songs from the 80s. That'll drop soon. And got a few shows lined up with the great Peter Jones and Reed Little, Deep Purple, Quiet Riot, a lot of things. Just stay tuned to Rock Daydream Nation. Plenty of good stuff coming up.
Mr. I think that was around 84 too, Aaron. And yes, I do have another unboxing, and I'm working on this. This is a very cool box of 8-track tapes that I have to do a video for. And thanks for joining us, Matthias. We're just at the end of the show here, but definitely go to Rock Daydream Nation if you have not already, and I'm sure you have. Come on.
Oh, we're doing a show too.
We are doing a show, and I don't want to talk about. I don't want to spoil what we're talking about on our show.
I'll give a little hint. It could be maybe proggy, so it's a little bit outside our wheelhouse, isn't it?
There's a chance that Peter might want to cancel that show because I listened to that album this week and I definitely have some opinions. So it just depends how much Peter wants to get tomatoes thrown at computer screens. That's all I'm going to say, folks. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, well, nothing succeeds like controversy, does it, Mike? I mean, you've been in my most controversial shows, haven't you? 2
of them anyway, yeah. For those who don't know what we're talking about, go to Rock Daydream Nation and check out his show on the decline of Western civilization part 2. We had an epic, I think, 9-guy panel, something like that. And we had some really brilliant analysis, but it was a little on the controversial side for people who slavishly worship the Hollywood rock scene. Thank you, Uncle Meat, so much for your list. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Johnny Metal. And no, we won't mention that last Contrarian show at all. We don't know what you're talking about.
My mic's working. Is my mic working? Sorry.
There you go. Any last words, Peter, before we call it a night and head into the weekend?
No. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully I'll be back in a year's time or something.
Hopefully sooner than that. We do have plans. We have plans for a series in 2025 that I'm not ready to announce yet, but hopefully we'll get you on in the fall to talk some more music, movies, comic books, video games, whatever.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And take care. Thank you, Pete Jones. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Really appreciate it. We always like to go out on a song here, and in the spirit of an 80s rock song, there's a tune I want to play here. I hope I still have it. I might not. There it is. Okay. This is a very 80s kind of rock song. This song is dedicated to our good friend Uncle Meat. This is a song called ODP. We'll see you next time on Grab a Stack of Rock.
Side of the bed, nothing but happy feelings in my head. I turned on the radio to hear just what was new, but the DJ is playing Motley Crue. I threw the damn thing down the stairs, seemed like the thing to do. Then I ripped the bloody door right off the loo. Because when your day starts just like this, an open door is. When I hear Nikki says, an open door is. Don't care if you're not impressed, an open door is. Did I mention I was a house guest? An open door pass. Heading out this evening to meet up with my boys. For a couple beers we'll make a little noise. Checked out the telly to find out what's the score. But the Patriots, they ain't no good no more. I threw that telly on the floor, then caught shit from the man. So I made a beeline straight for the can. Because when your evening starts like this, an open door is. When Tom Brady leaves the Patriots, an open door is. Hey, I almost never miss, an open door is. Everybody take a look at this, an open door is. Don't care about your rules, don't live my life to please you fools. If you don't like it, turn the other way. That's what I say. Like Desmond Child writing songs with Kiss, an open door is. Like 90s ballads from Aerosmith, an open door is. When the Jays can't